Hi boys and girls, welcome back to math class. We are on page 415. Guess I can't zoom down that far, but grab your math textbook and fill it in like I am. So today we're going to talk about surface area, and surface area is what we are talking about. Like if you were going to cover this cube or cover a box or cover a 3D object with something, you're covering the surface of it. So it's the surface area. We've also done some calculations where you're figuring out the volume of figures like that. And the volume is if you're going to fill it up. Like if you're going to take this cube and put some Skittles in there. Or if it's a container that you're going to fill with water, that would be the volume. So recently we've had to do some spraying of our yard. And we had a container we had to find the volume of, so we knew how much of the powder to mix in with the water. So as an adult, you're going to use volume, but then you also might be wanting to cover something, which is surface area. So you might want to be painting something, or maybe you're going to cover it with something, like cover it with, cover it with wood or cover it with plastic, and you want to know how much you need to cover it with. So probably use volume a little bit more than surface area, but you need to know how to figure out the surface area of something. We're going to start with this cube, and today's lesson we're going to use nets. Remember, a net is the picture of a 3D object unfolded. Last week we did some work with different arrangements you could have that would fold up into a cube. So this is probably one of the more common arrangements for how you could unfold this cube into a net. Today we're going to use nets. Tomorrow I'm going to show you how to figure out the surface area without a net. I don't know if it's easier with a net or not. Eventually you're going to have a problem and you're going to have to solve it, and you can decide whether you want to make a net or use a net or solve it without. So for today, this is the cube, and you know with the cube there's 6 sides, and all the sides are going to be the same. So once you figure out one of the sides, all you have to do is multiply it by 6. Well, I'm just going to take a look at one of these. We're going to take a look at one of those faces, or one of those sides right here. And you remember that it's length times width to find the area of that. Or in the case of a square, it's side times side. So 8 times 8, 64. And I like to write the numbers down inside there. So you know all of these are going to be 64 because they're all identical in size. And you're going to multiply 64 times 6. If you have a calculator, it's a whole lot easier. So I get 384. So our area is going to be 384 square feet. Boom. That was easy. Well, already I've made my first mistake. Maybe you caught it. It should have been square centimeters. Or you could write it centimeters squared like that. Not feet. Now we have another rectangular prism, 3D figure, and this is what it would look like if you unfolded it. It's really a box, right? And this box looks like not all the sides, all the rectangles along the sides are the same length. These two are going to be the same, but the rectangles along the other way are not the same. So here's our net, and we're going to figure out what the area would be for each shape. So first thing I want you to do is grab your calculator, and we'll do this face first. Remember, length times width. So do 7 times 15 on your calculator, and it would be 105. And that would be square inches. I'm just going to leave the unit off. This box right here, we know this side is 10. This side right here they didn't give us, but it's the same as this side here because the opposite sides of a rectangle are the same measure. So this is really 15. This one you don't need your calculator. 10 times 15, 150. Let me get rid of that little 15 there so we're not confused later on. Here, 7 times 15, that's another 105. For here, another face, another rectangle, 7 and 10 is 70. For here, this distance is 15. This is 10. You can do that in your head. 10 times 15, 150. Last one, 7 times 10 is 70. Now, you don't have to write your numbers inside the shapes like I did. I like it because then I know I did that one, and I know I've got them all figured out. So to find the surface area, now you have to take your calculator or line them up on the side and add them all up. I'm going to take a break for a minute and you figure that out. If your total was 650, you were correct. Inches squared, or a lot of times they write it square inches. As a fifth grader, you really only have to know how to figure out the surface area and the volume of a rectangular prism. Your textbook is giving you a little bit of a challenge in that they're having to figure out the area of a triangular prism. Remember, the top and the bottom are triangles. The bases are triangles, so sides are rectangles. It's a triangular prism. This is what the net would look like if you unfolded it. So you've got the triangles on either end and 3 rectangles. So same concept, we're going to figure out the area of each face. Only now we have triangles in the mix. Remember the formula for area for a triangle? Base times height divided by 2, or if you want to think of it as 1/2 of the base times the height. Either way. Let's do those first. So remember that the base and the height are the 2 lines that are formed by that right angle. You don't need this number 13 out here. Okay, so the height is 12. What is that base? Well, they gave it to you up here. It's 10. So 10 times 12, 120. And cut that in half, it's going to be 60. So this triangle is 60, and this triangle is identical. Remember, the bases on a prism are the same size, so you don't have to calculate that one. You already know it's 60. In the middle, look at how easy they made this on you. 16 times 10, 160. The last 2 you're going to probably want your calculator on. So you've got 16 over here. Remember, it's the other side of this rectangle, so it's the same measure. 16 and 13. $208. Over here, another 208. Now, add them all up. You get 696 square feet. How about that? Last question, how can you find the surface area of any prism? Well, what did we do? We found the area of all of the sides of all the faces. So find the area of all the faces. You can use the word side or the word faces. Faces is probably the correct mathematical term. And then once you find them all, add them up. Because we're finding area, our label is always going to be squared. square feet, square centimeters, square inches. Volume, because it was 3D and you were filling something up, was cubed. Area is always going to be squared. Now, today's homework, you're going to have some pictures like this, and because it's going to be on your screen, unless you have a touchpad of some sort, you're not going to be able to write the numbers on there. What you might want to do is copy that shape down on your piece of paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe a little bit bigger than this, so that you can touch it, you can label it, you can do your calculations a little bit easier. Otherwise, I'm afraid if you have a rectangular prism, I'm afraid you're going to do 5 of the sides and not the 6th side. So I would really suggest copying the figure down on a piece of paper and making it bigger and writing in the area of each one before you add it up. I do not remember how many times you can do it. I'm thinking it's 2 or 3. I'll put the number in the directions and then do the best you can. I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of places where you can make a mistake in something like this, and I know it's kind of confusing. Just give it your best shot and we'll see how it goes.